I've had a lot of brands tell us like, we've been burned by a lot of creators, chasing them, trying to find, like, get them to post, to get them to engage. And we want to change that because we're automating that. We're automating the payouts. We're verifying that they've actually taken that action. But that's been one of the challenges at scale with some of the brand campaigns with influencers.
Out of curiosity, like, have you seen companies besides Daisy that have kind of been able to like leverage some part of the Web3 growth stack and maybe apply it to companies not just in crypto?
I haven't. That was kind of
what should people be expecting from Daisy? Obviously, just announced the fundraising round. Probably got big plans ahead. Where are you guys headed to next?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Zyko. This is Token Warrant. Got a great show today that we're going to be talking about. A little bit different than some of our past episodes, but you'll learn more about it. Joined by the best co-hosts in all the land, Regan Bozeman.
Yeah, hey, Charlie, Ray, it's really good to have you guys on. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to meet you both. I've been hearing a lot about Daisy and you, Ray, so our listeners are pretty excited to learn more. You know the context for the chat, but like maybe just to kick things off, so you just like to start with the investor. Charlie, it'd be great to learn a little bit more about you and CMT, and then we'll turn things over to Ray.
Yeah, awesome. So a little about myself. I'm an investment partner here at CMT Digital. CMT Digital is more broadly part of the CMT Group, which is a 27-year-old proprietary trading investment firm. We're based here in Chicago, but operate pretty globally. And we've been investing in the digital asset space now for over 7 years. I think we've backed probably close to 150 companies since we first started investing in 2018. And we're actually deploying out our third fund and raising our fourth fund, and focused kind of on pre-seed and seed stage startups, and agnostic of kind of sector of the blockchain space.
Charlie has that spiel down. It's definitely not his first rodeo here.
A lot of reverse pitches and elevators. Got to keep it concise. I've been with CMT for like 4 years now.
Yeah, hitting the podcast circuit, super strong. Ray, how about you? And like, it was really cool, and we'll get into this obviously a lot more, but the KOL space, or like influencers in general, has been just like, I think more so than my entire time in crypto, really blew up this year. And so it's cool to hear from a company that's focused on that space. So maybe, yeah, Ray, what's your backstory?
Sure. So I'm the co-founder of Daisy. The co-founders that collectively have about 40 years of creator marketing experience, KOL marketing experience, building platforms, working and running like talent, management as well as brand management, all geared around kind of influencer marketing, if you will. And there's an interchangeable term around influencers and KOLs. But for Daisy, we believe that we're building the first of its kind, mobile application marketplace that harnesses the power of the creator collective to increase efficiencies for social campaigns by rewarding what matters, which is engagement on these platforms, and rewarding creators for engagement. So that could be a like, comment, or a share. But we've been at it for about 5 months officially, and we've seen a lot of good traction, which we'll share, in this podcast. So thanks for having us. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just to like contextualize, obviously some people would watch this, but some people are just gonna be able to listen. What exactly is Daisy? Like, what does it look like? What are people experiencing? Maybe just the distilled version.
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the problem. I mean, one of the challenges, and maybe the trajectory as well. I think back in 2021, we saw that, especially with my days at another platform called Pearpop, which I was chief product officer for. In 2021, I think of these platforms was all about sourcing creators and matching creators to be able to create content and then post it natively on their pages or their channels. And from what we've seen in the last couple of years is that proxy for successful campaigns has kind of shifted from like no longer it's about follower growth and finding the biggest creators with the biggest followers. It's actually about engagement. Because someone with like 5,000 followers could actually drive virality more than, in some respects, someone with 5 million followers. And so we wanted to figure out a way to automate that for brands And so for us, it was about getting the right creator collectives and creators, which we have about 1,000 by the end of the year. We have about 5,000 creators that are fully authenticated both on TikTok and also on Instagram. But the way it works is that we really are looking to amplify a piece of content, whether it's an ad piece of content, whether it's an influencer piece of content, or whether it's a brand piece of content. Because in this world, you post it, again, you just hope and pray that it's going to actually convert or it's going to generate traffic. Whereas in Daisy, when you post it in the app, we immediately source 20, 30 creators of varying sizes, but half of our creators are 500K followers or more. So now take the collective unit of these creators and their audiences. So now you're going to like 10 million people to be able to like share, comment, like, because any engagement will go to their audience. And so what we've seen is like a 20x engagement because of that interaction between the creator collectives on Daisy and on a particular post. So we're extending not only the life cycle, but we're also amplifying. This all happens within like a 30-minute window where creators will engage, like, comment, and share to their audiences. And the amplification, the 20x amplification on views and likes and follower growth in some respects will happen within like a 24, 48-hour window. And that's all automated on the platform.
Got it. So just the way the flow of the experiences, I'm a company, a brand, I want to reach, DeFi degens, we'll say. Let's say we'll narrow it to crypto, although I know you're outside of that space as well. And like you guys identify the creators or the KOLs, you push out the content that the brand wants amplified, and then they do the rest.
Yeah, exactly. The system will do the rest, because I think part of one thing that we're really leaning on is attribution. I think that's really key to this. Because like we could identify that cohort of creators. We'd like to say that we're creating like an echo chamber of engagement, and it's very important to match them. So in the case of what you just said in terms of the flow, you may be selling a vacuum cleaner, whatever, like a new vacuum cleaner on TikTok or on just D2C as well. You would do a branded post. This is how most platforms work today. You'll find the KOLs or influencers that are going to promote it, and you'll pay them $5K to $20K to post it. At that point, it goes into this black hole where you have no control of like whether that's going to convert, which audience is going to go to, whether it's going to be the target right audience. In our case, we'll know in Daisy who those 20 creators and their audience segments are they're going to engage with that content. So instead of getting like 5,000 views that you just paid $5,000 for, you now boost it on Daisy, because now you have 20 creators with large audiences that are sharing it, liking it, commenting on it, which creates a social proofing element as well. And then because of that, you're getting like 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 views. So you get more awareness because of that, because now you're amplifying through Daisy's creator network. But the whole idea is that we're matching through the algorithm these creator cohorts to be able to amplify a post, whether again, it's brand post, or whether it's an influencer post, or whether it's an ad content that you're running on these platforms.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was in the online advertising space, and I was at Facebook, and like a big thing we would sell is like this word of mouth at scale. And at the time it was like your friends were liking content, and then Facebook would amplify, like Regan likes Nike. And then I would see that ad. I'd be like, oh, damn, like Regan likes Nike. Maybe I should buy some Nike stuff. I don't know. I mean, we came up with studies that said it worked really effectively. But it was, similar concept. But in this case, you're getting people that actually theoretically have more influence than maybe just Regan and his love for affinity.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also we're creating a reward mechanism for the Regans of the world to actually engage. And like, this is very important because, but you're right. That behavior exists in the real world. Like imagine when you, in any platform, you're posting something, a brand, you send it to your friends and your friends of friends and say, hey, would you mind just liking, commenting, or sharing it? And then it goes into these group chats. But maybe a few people will actually take that action. So that behavior already exists. Not only does the behavior exist, but the platform already rewards that behavior. There's a reason why people get push notifications of certain content on certain days on TikTok and Instagram, because they want to increase engagement. And so now what we're doing is we're creating this in a systematic way, and through attribution is be able to now drive the algorithm, if you will, because we're garnering interest from this cohort. And then also we're rewarding the creators it could be like a $20 for a comment. It could be like $100 for a share. So a creator sits there all day just waiting for the next brand deal, next 5K deal. But imagine they could actually open up Daisy every single day and look at $1,000 worth of engagement opportunities because they're helping their brand with a $20 comment. And they're also helping like sharing it for $100. So their day is done if they go through 10 or 20 opportunities, which is really the dream state for Daisy.
Yeah, Regan, we'll have to get you on that now that you've cracked it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've been terrible at monetizing my small amount of Twitter influence. So maybe this is a good place to start. I'm sure a question you get sometimes, and maybe it's natural because we're on a crypto podcast, but can you talk a little bit more about like the crypto angle for Daisy?
Yeah, sure. One thing that we're seeing as far as early signals, early traction metrics for us is microtransactions. So we're doing probably about $100,000 a month of GMV within the first 6 months of being in business, and that's our pipeline continues to grow, as you can imagine. But we're also seeing these microtransactions, payouts to creators, reaching anywhere north of like $50,000, $70,000 a month. So one aspect of Web3 Rails for us is going to be a stablecoin, and being able to actually make it very easy and seamless and frictionless to be able to pay creators. You think about cross-border payments, paying a LATAM creator with a US brand. It's very clunky, and sometimes it's very costly. So we definitely want payments to be one of those pieces. And there's some things that we're just continuing to explore. This is an incentive-based system, a reward-based system. And so anything that we're doing that's anchoring to rewards and incentives, which the next version of this will have a dual currency, which is points and cash. So there's going to be a lot of learning that we're going to do, and a lot of modeling from the point-based system that we feel is a token model designed for. We also think that for us, we're going to win when we actually win the creators' loyalty. And so, in other words, like this concept of progressive ownership is really important to us. For them to like see that they're coming back like 5 times a day to see what the next opportunity is, and for them to see the immediate payouts within 24 hours. And then from that, we really want to see this progressive ownership which drives loyalty, which then will be anchored to some sort of token. But we're still in the process of actually mapping out what the elements are with the token.
It sounds like, did you discover crypto via like, hey, I was, hunting on tokens on exchanges and then came across this? Or like, I know there's some crypto companies like Demo, which is in the Lattice portfolio, that are already using Daisy, or did crypto find you?
Yeah, so I'm an advisor of Audius, and that's how I got exposed to crypto, especially around a system where in their case, I think 90% of their users don't even know it's crypto because they've created this reward mechanism around audio, the token, in a way that just kind of mimics the behavior of any Web2 platform, both on the artist side and the fan side. So there's a lot of learnings that I've experienced just being front and center with Audius. In terms of like Demo and some other clients we're working with, this is one element that we felt was important to us, was seeing that there's a market of like a lot of Web3 companies that are identifying their audiences in the community into like TikTok and Instagram, and less about crypto Twitter. And I think there's a lot of challenges of identifying that community and their users within those audiences. So we felt that there was a really good opportunity to hit that segment. And because of our investor base, we knew that there was some, some interesting opportunities to actually help those portfolio companies, in the case of CMT or some of our other investors, because they're looking to like identify and go and penetrate TikTok and Instagram because they really feel that's where their users are.
It makes sense. And I feel like as crypto kind of like moves slightly more mainstream and like these consumer applications actually start to like, get outside of this bubble, the audience beyond Twitter grows, and like Instagram and TikTok and these kind of more like, I don't know, slightly more mainstream social channels become like the main channel that people are going after, which is really, It's exciting to see. I'd be curious at a high level, like you have a lot of clients that are not in crypto. You also have some that do. Like, how does the world of like KOLs and influencer marketing differ between crypto and kind of like other consumer brands?
I think it's, I don't want to, if you go back, I guess like a lot of KOL, like crypto KOLs, that segment is really small. And I think but yet the demand is so vast with crypto companies trying to hit like the segment of those KOLs, and they're super expensive, and it's very difficult to get like an ROI. And so I think the behavior and the demand and the interest and the value is the same, regardless if you're a crypto company or whether you're a luxury brand like that we've been working with as well. That's just selling sweaters. Like for us, like the mechanics and the value proposition is the same. They want to increase traffic, they want to increase engagement, they want to increase followership. And they also want to increase their ROAS, right? The return on ad spend, if they're running ads on social platforms. And so the ROAS is actually what's unique to a lot of e-com brands. That's from what crypto brands have done. For us, Web3/crypto brands that care more about community engagement and building a community within these platforms. I do think there will be an element where like the Demos of the world cares about installs. And we have been able to run several campaigns with Demo that we've generated a lot of traffic and amplified traffic through Daisy's engagement mechanics and actually converted to installs. And so e-commerce, I think, they care more about conversion. They care about ROAS. They care about lowering their CPAs. And we've also seen some really interesting test cases around that as well. But what I think is the underpinning for all of them is going to be able to create and harness community. So I think there's a lot of similarities in terms of both Web2 and Web3 companies.
Would be really curious, just like taking a step back before we dive more into the crypto angle. Like, what is like the I don't know, very brief history of like influencers marketing? Like, I'm trying to think of who the first one. Like, I feel like I remember maybe it was like 5 years ago when like the Fat Jew came out with his rosé. It was like very novel. I feel like for these like influencers to have their own brands, but I'm sure like that history of monetization and people making money on like online influence goes way beyond that.
Yes, it does. I think a lot of people talk about Kim Kardashian's first tweet. I think she got $70K for, and she got $70,000 for promoting the F-150 for Ford. and the challenge was that she got blasted by her community because she's like, you don't drive an F-150. So like think about that. That's a tweet that she got for like $70,000 for. And I think just with the popularity of Instagram, very quickly got in this world of like, KOL and influencer marketing. I think it's interesting to see, like, I believe in 2021 is when we saw this like spike in terms of like sourcing influencers and this whole ecosystem of getting people to like the whole economy around influencers, whether it's macro, whether it's mega, with like 1 million followers or more. But I think what we've seen is it going downstream to like nano, micro. And so because I believe what people really care about is about UGC content, like having thousands of pieces of content about your brand, of like followers of like 1,000, 2,000, ish, than having a Kim Kardashian posting something. There's still value there for sure. So I think it's shifted, but I would say the history has been like these big celebrities, these big social media profiles, television personalities. They were the first ones to drive brand deals on social. And then from there, it became like building followership. And all of a sudden, when people started getting 1 million followers, 5 million, 10 million, Charlie D'Amelio had 100 million followers on TikTok. That's when it became interesting for brands to leverage it the way that they leverage a TV ad or what have you. And then the ecosystem just kind of built out. The tools like Pearpop, the tools like the analytics tools like Tubular, and then now it became more efficient for people to run campaigns. The last thing I was saying at this point is that I also feel like because of Apple privacy challenges, and I also for brands to target, retarget, and because of the deprecation of third-party cookies for Google, I feel like now it's like becoming even more important for brands to look at their influencer marketing strategy and leveraging them. But it's a wild west still. Like I've had a lot of brands tell us like we've been burned by a lot of creators, chasing them, trying to find get them to post, to get them to engage. And we want to change that because we're automating that. We're automating the payouts. We're verifying that they've actually taken that action. But that's been one of the challenges at scale with some of the brand campaigns with influencers.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Daisy's definitely not probably in the standard place that any investors sourcing deals. So yeah, Charlie, how did you and Ray first get connected? Were you looking for creator opportunities, or what was the genesis?
Yeah, so I actually first talked with Ray probably like 2 years ago. when he was working on a company called Quiver. And then we were reconnected thanks to the Escape Velocity guys. And I can let Ray kind of go in the background there. But basically, Sal and Mahesh had been working with Ray for a few months and then introduced, because they know I spent a lot of time looking at consumer use cases of blockchain technology and kind of looking at different kind of mass implementations. And so they introduced Ray and I back in April of this year, and then had several calls and kind of just went down the diligence rabbit hole before deciding to lead their seed round.
Good segue. So what are the details here, Ray? It sounds like CMT's back in the truck up.
Yes, I couldn't be more thrilled about having Charlie and his team as the lead investor, the partner. So a little bit of capital raise history. Like our pre-seed was with the Escape Velocity. And we raised a small check just to get us going, to get some test cases going, and then we just closed a $1.6 million round as CMT as the lead. What was interesting to note is I'll give credit to Mahesh and Sal over at EV3, because in some respects they saw the deep pen angle as much as now a lot of people do with Daisy. Like, I think Mahesh even said, like, listen, this is like human capital. Like the physical aspect of what you're doing, DPN is actually the human capital, because what we're doing is we have what we call a creator-powered network. At the end of the day, it is powered by creators, and it will continue to be built based on the creators as a whole. For us, it's like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and it's actually very effective in terms of these campaigns. So. I love what they noticed early on, and then they made the reintroduction to Charlie and Sam, and we just identified them as the right lead for us.
Charlie, you mentioned looking into a lot of like mass market consumer plays. I know you've been deep on gaming. Mm-hmm. Are there certain categories that like you feel like is most best suited for something like Daisy within crypto right now? Like, is it like, hey, actually we think gaming is a perfect fit for it, or like what gets you most excited for Daisy, and particular how it relates to the crypto market?
Yeah. So I think there's a few combinations. One, I think in the crypto market, from what I've viewed with a lot of our portfolio companies, they really struggle with thinking about marketing and kind of onboarding and kind of escaping kind of the crypto Twitter ethos, right? Or like, how do you onboard new individuals or reach a new audience? Whether it's a deep in project that requires onboarding additional users like Demo, or even kind of Web3 gaming, right? As we've mentioned previously, IDFA has really kind of blown up mobile gaming and advertising and figuring out that. So with Daisy's platform, it obviously increases reach and decreases costs. But what's unique is kind of, for me, what was really compelling is the opportunity that was presented on targeting a market that inherently isn't crypto native. So looking at just the traditional content creator and influencing marketing, I think if you ask Ray what the percentage of creators onboarded today are like crypto creators, it's probably less than 10%, if not less than 5%. And so that was what was really compelling for me, is kind of mixing the two and having that expertise, subject matter expertise in the content creation and influencer space, and overlaying that with the blockchain elements that they use, whether it's kind of micropayments, and then also adding in the token incentivization network to kind of create that loyalty and reward the participants of the platform, or something more technical, such as using like zkTLS to do kind of the action verification.
There's a lot there. Maybe to touch on the last point, because zkTLS is a hot buzzword in crypto right now on the infrastructure side, but you don't hear a lot of examples of anyone actually using it. Which one of you wants to take a stab at defining it, and then how it's used?
Charlie, you want to define it, and I'll jump in and give you a use case.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ray's probably better to handle both of those, but I mean, the big example, right, is Opacity. I think is kind of made waves in the zkTLS space, and they're the back-end provider for Ray. So if you talk to the Opacity guys, I think they quite frequently mention Daisy as kind of like the kind of perfect use case. But at a high level, to put it in kind of simple terms, my understanding is they're able to do verification of whether an action occurred by like, actually, I'll hand over to Ray to kind of talk about how Daisy specifically.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important thing. When I mentioned attribution, for us, it's going to be I mean, at the end of the day, we think of this as a trade, like the fact that you match the creator or a cohort of creators to execute a trade. In this case, social capital, like a common like and share, right? So for us, like pricing models, being able to like price it in index, like we think there's going to be dynamic pricing at some point with the product and creators. We think there's going to be based on their engagement. Maybe there's a velocity of their engagement. Maybe there's a deviation that we start tracking as well over the last 30 posts. And this is what we're going to do with the product. But in order to verify that, for us, we really believe that someone like Opacity does have the right solution in terms of like their TikTok API and their Instagram API to create verifiable attributes, essentially, when we're actually making those, not just recommendations and matching, but also predictions, because that just going to help everybody, help the brand because it'll create more effectiveness and engagement. It'll help the creators because we'll actually be able to identify what their value is at that very moment. It goes back to like the fact that it doesn't matter how many followers you have. It really matters like what you're doing within that. Maybe there's like a time window, like that first 2 hours is actually more valuable for a creator than another creator for a very specific brand. So attribution, tagging, verifiable, all that stuff will be very important. So zkTLS for us is actually probably the best route, and working with Opacity and them having like most of the APIs that we want, ticketing, it's interesting as well, data to like social data, be able to verify that they did actually not only comment but they replied. Like, what if actually a response to a comment is just as valuable as a comment itself? So those are things that are going to be super important for us.
I guess just like to get an idea on kind of like how close Opacity and zkTLS are to like commercialization. Like, yeah, like how close is that to being like ready for prime time and working at scale? Because it's super interesting, right? It's such a broadly applicable technology. And people obviously talk a lot about it a lot in places like crypto Twitter. You're actually, leveraging it.
Yes. We're one of the first companies, I think, that have access to their SDK. And so, and it's the TikTok API. There's some things that we're working on with them on defining the Instagram API as well. So we're pretty far along in terms of the actual integration side, but like, I'd have to defer to them in terms of commercial ready SDKs. But there's a version out there that we've been working with.
This maybe fits. I mean, you have a couple of different areas. You have creators, DPIN, MarTech. Like, there's a lot of categories you fit into. MarTech is one area that, like, I don't know, Charlie, we definitely see a lot of pitches for it. One thing that's made us nervous about the category is like MarTech and crypto feels like a pretty narrow, like very narrow. Like you're just marketing to one small subsegment of the startup industry, if you will. Whereas for you guys, it's like you guys can do vacuum cleaners, you can do crypto companies, but like, what do you guys think of like just MarTech and crypto in general? Like, Ray, are you guys, besides zkTLS, which I wouldn't consider MarTech, like, are you guys using anything? And then Charlie, like, have you guys at CMT, have you guys gotten into any other, MarTech companies or like the MarTech stack in crypto?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because like, if you think about, Daisy and kind of where we're at now, it's like it's an always on platform, and I think that's important because creators can always see their opportunities and live opportunities. And then with a new version of it, we're going to always have the ability to generate points. So now the community can participate to earn points. You don't have to be a creator or an influencer. So for us, what I like about some of the MarTech aspects of it, which we, may consider as like loyalty programs. So how can we drive loyalty with these cohorts of creators by way of like, hey, DM me if you actually, the brand could actually want the creators to DM the users, or the brands could DM the users to join a loyalty program. It could be a marketplace in which they could redeem some of that as well for their actual products. But for us, I don't see us as a MarTech solution. I definitely, what you said is interesting in terms of like, a marketplace that could actually be almost classified as a gig marketplace as well for creators. But MarTech is not something that we would really classify ourselves as.
Don't want to pigeonhole you guys. Yeah. I think it's just like, you have things like Spindle, like you were talking about attribution. I don't know if like a crypto company runs a campaign, if they can measure, like if you're using them to measure the ethic, like downstream wallet transactions, or if you guys are doing all of that in-house.
Yeah, that's a good point. right now we're doing this all in-house. Yeah. But there's going to be a lot of conversation about the wallet infrastructure, the payment infrastructure. Like Charlie and I have been talking a little bit about that as well. He had more visibility in some of the stack, and I think we just leverage our investors and their relationships.
Yeah, and that's been a kind of point of discussion, especially like looking at Daisy's platform and the difference, I guess, with the different clients they work with have different goals, right? If you're working with a traditional Web2 brand that does a lot of DTC marketing, all they're going to care about is kind of ROI and attribution, right? And the efficacy of spend versus some of the Web3 companies are like, their goals are different, right? Growing a community or following where you can't really put a tangible ROI versus if it's part of like the DTC budget for marketing, it's like, we need to know what the ROI on that marketing spend is. So that's a big component of kind of, thinking how to track that attribution and downstream spend caused by the platform. And then I think with as far as like kind of taking a step back and looking at MarTech on a broader basis within Web3 space, it's an interesting area. I've spent a good amount of time looking at it. I think the challenge that most companies in the space face is like within just like the crypto or Web3 native arena, it's a pretty limited space today, right? Whether it's addressing, if you're building on kind of a Web3 solution, you're addressing a small audience. And so it's how do you kind of expand beyond that audience, one, to scale a MarTech platform, but also just for companies. It's like, sure, you have 100,000 up to 1 million users on wallets, but it's pretty confined ecosystem. And like, the benefit, right, that you commonly see is the data availability via transactions and being able to look at someone's wallet and tag that to the Web2 identifier. You can get a very robust customer profile. But the issue is if it only extends across a couple 100,000 that have Web3 wallets today, like how effective is that at scale? And I think that's the question or kind of roadblock that a lot of marketing tech startups within the crypto space have faced and are actively trying to solve.
Out of curiosity, like, have you seen companies besides Daisy that have kind of been able to like leverage some part of the Web3 growth stack and maybe apply it to companies not just in crypto?
I haven't. That was kind of
this is the only one
of backing Daisy. At least, I mean, I'm sure there probably is somebody out there who's been successful. I haven't really haven't seen anyone actively target or successfully kind of start targeting that like crossover, right? Where it's almost majority like a non Web3 audience or user base, and blend those two efficiently. I haven't seen any, but maybe
yeah.
you could.
I mean, I think there's like a few emerging areas. We're really excited about these like digi-physical experiences where you can kind of like unlock digital experiences based on like physical activation. So we have a portfolio company, IYK, that's sort of been like the category leader there. And I think like, you mentioned like crypto transactions as kind of this like open data layer. Like I think there's a lot of really interesting design space about what brands can do there. I mean, two other companies that are not portfolio companies, but I feel like TYB, like Try Your Best, in this kind of like, I wouldn't even call it crypto native, but maybe like back-end crypto-based loyalty programs are really interesting. And then, Blackbird is doing something much more specific in restaurants. So I think it's cool to see. And I think like both those companies, and it sounds like Daisy, are kind of taking the design approach of like, not putting crypto front and center, right? It's like we're trying to do this, and crypto is like some component of what make that works. And it feels like these companies over the next few years could actually hit pretty real scale.
Yeah, I think Blackbird's a really compelling one. I mean, I go out to eat it quite a bit, and I'm waiting for it to open up in Chicago, but I followed it. And some of the stuff they've done with like their Breakfast Club and Burger Club are quite compelling. Another one, it's a portfolio company of ours that is also tackling this, and they work with IYK, is 90cc, which is G-Money startup. And so like, obviously they're doing a fashion brand and with embedded RC chip and gamifying kind of the like wearing fashion and gamifying fashion in the real world, which is super awesome. And they've built out like a tech stack to make that a kind of a scalable experience. But like you see photos like Bradley Cooper, who's just wearing the 90cc hat to wear it, right? Like fully unaware that it's like kind of crypto oriented or crypto native, just because it's fashion. And so like that I think is awesome to see.
I might need to upgrade the wardrobe before New York next week, Mike. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Neither of us are the most fashion-forward gentlemen, but
I do live in white salmon. Ray, you talked about a stable coin, but maybe didn't go into too much detail. Are you thinking about your own stablecoin that's specific to the Daisy chain, if you will, or like, okay, we're just going to leverage USDC and make micropayments with that? Like, because obviously it's a great use case. Cross-border payments continues, like, as long as, we have all been in this industry, like cross-border payments is something that continues to plague us. So yeah, how are you thinking about a stablecoin or just payments in general?
Yeah, it's right now we're leaning towards like a USDC stablecoin. There's a few options there, of course. What we're seeing right now, we're just trying to get we want to get a place where we're generating not only like a 50K or 70K a month on microtransactions a month per month to like 500,000 per month. And I think this will be for us, we really feel in order to really scale it and to automate it, there has to be a stablecoin infrastructure in place, maybe if not sooner. Because what we're finding is that we have a wallet inside of Daisy right now. The wallet just shows all your transactions. It shows like all the actions that you've done. And it has a point-based balance and has a cash-based balance. So we really feel like the stablecoin will be a way to not just keep the balance, but also be able to pay out. Well, for us, like creators get paid 90 days, net 90 days typically on any branded campaign. Big problem. They can't plan for it. They can't budget for it. They can't buy a wardrobe. They can't buy a new camera to shoot their content, like any of that stuff. Whereas the dependency and the control, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about control, is like now creators have control. And now if they're able to get not just paid out in near real time, which we're doing within 24 hours right now, is that someone in Latin America could actually receive those funds and not get hung up in like an HSBC framework that's trying to like convert that and wire it over to them and taking maybe a big fee, right? And taking 3 days or 4 days after the 90-day payout, right? So those are things that it's very important for us to figure out. This is why if you look at our domain is daisypay.io, I think that part of it is because we do want to solve for the payment side as much as everything else we're solving for.
I was talking to a company yesterday that was pitching something around privacy and payments. And privacy is another area that people talk about a lot in crypto, but doesn't always get adopted. Do you guys think like for payments to reach global scale where people are paying employees or creators, like you need privacy embedded, or like, do you think at some point people just don't care if they know what brands are paying who for what and how much?
That's a very good question, especially for creators and brands. Like we are looking at some solutions that have a default kind of confidential aspect to their blockchain infrastructure. So that's very important for us. And we also know there's like subnets and stuff like that could potentially be built out on other L1s or L2s. We would prefer that that's not the transaction, itself or the ledger of the transaction, but maybe the amount is hidden. For us, that will help us scale. Maybe we could bundle the payouts so it doesn't show that this brand paid this particular creator a certain amount. So I think there's a few options for us, and both with public blockchains as well as ones that are default confidential in terms of the transactional data. But that is something that we've been highlighting internally as something that is very important for us to scale with creators and for brands.
Charlie, what do you think are the categories of consumer products that are coming out in crypto? There's a lot of chatter on crypto Twitter right now about like this is the time for consumer, whether it's social, gaming, or just like broad consumer categories. Like when you look at what you've looked at and then combined with maybe the potential of what Daisy could achieve in breaking into consumer audiences outside of what's on Twitter, like what do you think? Any predictions on the the long-awaited consumer apps that are coming?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like one, I do think like as far as infrastructure goes and where the state is, like when I started in 2021, like you had Dabber Labs go viral with Top Shot, right? But in a sense, it was a kind of very centralized experience. There was no liquidity. But that's what they needed to do. And that's part of why Top Shot was so successful. Or honestly, like I think one of the most slept on consumer crypto apps, it probably is the most slept on consumer app is SoRare, right? SoRare is very successful. And what made them do extremely well is they abstracted a lot of the actual interacting with the blockchain and a lot of the pains that you deal with. And that's what has been able to onboard hundreds of thousands to each of those platforms respectively. And I think SoRare was much more successful with the retention issue, which is an issue that all consumer apps face. And so that's kind of like the second issue, right? Is building a consumer app is quite difficult, even in Web 2, right? Like you had Clubhouse go super viral and then kind of get cannibalized by Twitter Spaces or BeReal, which just got acquired, have their own challenges. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. It's who can leverage blockchain primitives and kind of token incentives to create kind of that next viral retentive consumer app. And I think you have a lot of interesting attempts at it. I think Fantasy Top is quite interesting in itself, but Fantasy Top's issue, right, is focused on a very niche market, which is crypto Twitter. So it's like, how do you take that kind of core base and the success they've had and then bring it further out? And that's where I think something with like Daisy really comes into play, and especially for other consumer apps is on the marketing angle, right? Is how do you bring in and attract a net new audience and really target that outside of the crypto ecosystem?
No, it's interesting in that I feel like a lot of the mainstream or relatively mainstream consumer apps like SoRare that have, hit some scale, the audience is just like not always super crypto native. I mean, we always joke it's like ETH Denver is scheduled in the Super Bowl in a lot of years, and like no one complains, right? There's just like the Venn diagram of sports enthusiasts and crypto people is not that high. So it's like maybe you almost need to like just go after a totally different audience in order for like one of these crypto consumer apps to kind of like hit real scale.
I think some of the deep end projects, Frank, I mean, you guys are fitting within that category, but a lot of them, like Demo as an example, like the app has consumer like experiences in it. You can buy different services related to your vehicle. You start getting recommendations on service changes, and like you're starting to see more of the deep ends, not just really just be a box or infrastructure, but like provide something that's cool for you, regardless of whether or not you're getting incentivized with tokens to install it or put it in your home or car or vehicle or whatever.
I mean, I think you could argue a lot of deep end projects are consumer projects, right? Something like Helium, right? They have 100,000 active users. Obviously, it's deep and underneath, but it's a consumer-facing end product. Or like Nosh, right? Doing delivery, like food delivery and grocery delivery, like very much a consumer app.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely, we think it's kind of the Trojan horse to a certain extent, is like getting that consumer experience down so you can get the infrastructure pipes laid out. As we kind of just wrap up here, Ray, like what should people be expecting from Daisy? Obviously, just announced the fundraising round, probably got big plans ahead. Where are you guys headed to next?
Yeah. It kind of goes back to what as I mentioned earlier, like we win with the creators. And so for us, it's about gaining that trust and loyalty for the creator community. So there's 127 million, I think, creators in this world. And I personally think everyone's a creator if you're on social. And so it's probably 95% of the population. And so with that, we're going to be releasing a creator version of the tool where the creators could boost their own content. And so, so it goes back to like the everyday use case for a creator. Like, how do I earn? Here's 5 ways you can earn. Here's ways you could actually boost someone, a brand campaign that you align with, or you could grow. And you could grow by way of just like boosting your own content. Maybe there's some content that has like, 500 likes and has like 2,000, 5,000 views. You want to boost it. And so for us, we feel that we could win in that market, not just with individual creators, but small businesses that want to boost their own content, because they don't have the budgets that some of the brands that we're working with now, small businesses, but they actually need amplification because they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on all these social channels. So that creator version will not just hit the individual creator market, not vendor boost, but small businesses and every single like independent artist, if you will, that needs to boost their content on these platforms. So that's number one. And I think for us, we really just want to lean on, community-based features. The idea there is that, we talked about Helium, they're a client of ours. But what if the Helium is amplifying their content on Daisy, and we're hitting that 20x engagement within 24 hours? But what if they also reward their community to also participate? So then, and to also boost. And so a comment like could be rewarded Helium tokens. So working with these platforms that already have pre-established communities, a vibrant community, give them a reward mechanism to engage on the Daisy platform, specific within this closed loop ecosystem of, like in this case, Helium. And then just other platforms we're going to be also hitting on, like YouTube Shorts and Snapchat. The last thing I'll just mention too is that everyone's talking about TikTok Shop, like the explosive growth with TikTok Shop. And I think last year, I believe in Asia, social shopping generated $630 billion of revenue across all these platforms. And so to me, TikTok Shop is an absolute gold mine. I think there's just not enough sellers. There's definitely not enough creator affiliates to actually to help sell those products. There's a lot of demand. That's an ocean of demand, and so we were talking to a brand, and they're a pretty significant brand, but that's $300 million a year on TikTok and Instagram and e-commerce. And they said, listen, Daisy's going to be the Levi Strauss of the gold mine. If you wear that denim, you're going to be able to accelerate and amplify your chances of success. And so there's some really interesting things we're doing in the world of TikTok Shop or social shopping and integration, where we could not just drive top of funnel, but now we could actually take them all the way down to the funnel and actually make them do purchases with affiliate boosting. There are thousands of affiliates that they have selling their products. So we're really excited about that as well. So this is the next phase for us, which is, we've already have those products in place, and we're just about, doing some testing and releasing and getting the right creators on board.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have some portfolio companies that I think we can send your way that fit into that category of trying to break out into mainstream audiences. Thank you both for coming on the Token Warrant, talking to us about Daisy. Where should people stay up to date with both of you? Twitter, TikTok? Charlie, I think you're doing some dances on there here.
Just Twitter for me, and just at Charlie Sandor.
Yeah, I think honestly, you could DM me on Telegram. I'd love to hear from anybody, which is at Hollywood_Ray.
Hollywood Ray. Nice. Thanks
That's
again, guys.
Podcast, by the way. I can tell you the whole story why I got that name.
for a future episode, maybe at the Series A. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you soon.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Right. Appreciate it.